Have you ever wondered how one person can change the course of history? How a single will forged in obscurity can unite a nation, end a centuries-long conflict, and open up an entirely new world? Today, we're rediving into the incredible story of a woman who did just that. Queen Isabella of Castile. Our story begins in the spring of 1451 in a quiet Spanish town. A baby girl named Isabella is born, the daughter of a king, but her path to the throne was anything but certain. Few at her birth could have ever predicted that this solemn, golden-haired child would one day become one of the most powerful and consequential rulers in European history. Her childhood was far from the fairy tales you might imagine. When Isabella was just 3 years old, her father, King John II, passed away. The crown didn't go to her, but to her much older half-brother, Henry IV. Henry's court was a snake pit of political drama, backstabbing nobles, and constant intrigue. His reign was weak and indecisive, plunging the kingdom of Castile into chaos. Following her father's death, Isabella's mother, overcome with grief, retreated from the world. So the young princess grew up not in the glittering halls of power, but in a quiet, almost provincial setting. It was here, away from the corruption of the court, that she learned the lessons that would define her rule: deep religious faith, a strong sense of morality, and the practical skills of managing a household. These might seem like simple virtues, but they became the bedrock of her reign. Even as a young girl, people noticed her remarkable qualities. Beneath a gentle and composed exterior lay a mind of incredible intelligence and a will of pure iron. As Isabella blossomed into a teenager, Castile was falling apart. King Henry's authority was crumbling. His nobles were practically running their own little kingdoms, and a massive scandal was brewing over his own daughter, Juana. Many whispered that Juana wasn't the king's biological child, which threw the entire line of succession into question. Suddenly, all eyes turned to Isabella. As the king's half-sister with a legitimate claim, she became the most valuable chess piece on the board. Powerful men from across Europe wanted to marry her. The King of Portugal's brother, a French duke, they all saw her as a prize to be won, a way to gain influence over Castile. But Isabella was no one's pawn. She refused to be married off like a piece of property. In a world where royal women were expected to obey, she quietly took control of her own destiny. And then, in 1469, she made a move that shook the foundations of the kingdom. In an act of open defiance against her brother, the king, Isabella made a bold and secret choice. She arranged her own marriage to Ferdinand, the young and ambitious heir to the neighboring kingdom of Aragon. This wasn't just a romance. It was a political earthquake. They met in secret, and their union was a pact, a promise of a new future. They were a perfect match. Nearly the same age, both were incredibly intelligent, deeply religious, and fiercely ambitious. Their marriage wasn't a conquest, but a partnership. Together, they embodied the dream of a united Spain. Two powerful kingdoms joined not by war, but by love and a shared vision. They were the original power couple. When Isabella's brother, King Henry IV, died in 1474, the moment of truth arrived. Isabella didn't hesitate. She rode into the city of Segovia and had herself proclaimed Queen of Castile. But her claim wasn't accepted by everyone, a brutal civil war erupted, pitting Isabella against the supporters of her niece, Juana, for 5 long, bloody years. Isabella fought for her crown. She wasn't a queen who sat in a palace. She was on the front lines, rallying troops, managing logistics, and proving her strength as a leader. Finally, in 1479, the war ended. Isabella was the undisputed queen of Castile. In that very same year, her husband Ferdinand inherited the throne of his own kingdom, Aragon, and so began the joint reign of the 2 most famous monarchs in Spanish history. From then on, they would be known to the world by a title given to them by the Pope himself. Los Reyes Catolicos, the Catholic monarchs. Their first major goal was to complete what was known as the Reconquista *, the centuries-long effort to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule. For over 700 years, parts of Spain had been under the control of Moorish kingdoms. The last remaining stronghold was the Emirate of Granada, a wealthy and beautiful kingdom in the south. The Catholic monarchs saw its conquest as their sacred duty. For 10 years, they waged a relentless war. This wasn't just a military campaign, it was a crusade. Isabella was its heart and soul. She sold her own jewels to fund the army, established the first military field hospitals, and her unwavering faith inspired her soldiers. In January of 1492, the final banner of Granada fell. Isabella and Ferdinand rode into the city in triumph. After nearly 800 years, the Reconquista was complete. For them, it was the ultimate victory. The unification of Spain under a single Christian crown. But 1492 is famous for another reason, isn't it? Just as one chapter of history was closing, another was about to begin. For years, a persistent Genoese navigator named Christopher Columbus had been petitioning European courts with a wild idea to reach the East Indies by sailing west across the vast unknown Atlantic. He'd been rejected by Portugal, by England, and even initially by Ferdinand and Isabella. Their advisors thought he was a fool, that his calculations were wrong, but Columbus was persistent, and Isabella, fresh from her victory in Granada, was in a mood for bold ventures. She saw the potential for trade, for prestige, and for spreading the Christian faith to new lands. Against the advice of many, she agreed to fund his voyage. It was a massive gamble, a shot in the dark based on the vision of one determined man and the faith of one powerful queen. In August 1492, Columbus set sail with 3 small ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Letters. His journey into the unknown would forever change the map of the world. When he returned, believing he had reached Asia, he brought back news of a new world. Isabella's gamble had paid off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. This single decision opened the door to the age of exploration, connecting Europe, the Americas, Africa, and Asia in a new global network. It unleashed a wave of colonization that would build the vast Spanish Empire, making Spain the wealthiest and most powerful nation on earth for the next century. However, Isabella's reign is also marked by deep and painful controversy. In that same pivotal year of 1492, the Catholic monarchs issued the Alhambra Decree. This edict forced all Jews in Spain to either convert to Catholicism or leave the country forever. Tens of thousands were forced into exile, a tragic event that ended centuries of Jewish life in Spain. Later, A similar decree was issued against Muslims. The Spanish Inquisition, an ecclesiastical court established to ensure religious orthodoxy, also cast a dark shadow, using fear and persecution to enforce a strict Catholic identity. For Isabella, religious unity was inseparable from national unity. But this pursuit came at a terrible human cost, a dark stain on an otherwise brilliant legacy. Isabella was more than just a conqueror or a sponsor of explorers. She was a mother to 5 children, including Catherine of Aragon, who would later become the first wife of King Henry VIII of England. She was a reformer who centralized power, created a more efficient government, and laid the foundations of modern Spain. She was a patron of the arts and learning, and her court was a center of Renaissance culture. Queen Isabella died in 1504, but her impact is immeasurable. From a forgotten princess in a provincial town, she rose to become a queen who united a country, redrew the map of the world, and shaped the course of history for centuries to come. Her life is a powerful, complex, and often controversial story of faith, ambition, and the incredible force of a single human will. What do you think is Isabella's most significant legacy? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that shaped our world. See you next time.